So let me know, everybody. Can you guys hear me? So it might be that Steve have a problem right now. See and hear you, Martin. Perfect. Hi. Moment of what exactly, Jens? This is the moment of what? And hopefully everything will continue working a little bit more successful from now on. This is brand new system we're checking out. The last Sunday it worked perfectly. Today we have a couple of difficulties, but hopefully it will work from now on. Steve will be re-logging in. There will always be something, you know. Everything can be so technological and so advanced, and the more advanced, the more, you know, problems it usually gonna give us. So that's why I love hypnosis. It's so plain simple. It's just about communicating, and it's from one person to another. It's so much more simpler instead of all this advanced stuff. So I hope you guys will definitely bear with us, and again, excuse us for the big delay, but we will definitely do the full webinar anyway. And hopefully you guys will have as much fun as we did. And good thing though, because I got a little bit stressed out from getting all of this, you know, delay thing working, and I might be the one who definitely need to use one of my own techniques afterwards to get everything released from my system, so I get all that stress on the outside and way gone from me. So guys, it might be that I'm repeating myself, excuse me for that, but right there on the right side there will be there's a chat room. You guys can ask a lot of questions if you feel like it. We will pick up on them as much as possible, and hopefully you guys will wait a little bit with all the questions so we can do that in the second part of this whole thing. And yes, Brian, nice hat, I know that. It's because my hairdo is so strange right now, so I'm just putting on a hat to not to scare you guys. So on the second half, it might be that I'm asking you guys a couple of questions. Use the chat room to go and answer that, and then you just fill in the blanks if you feel like there's something you need to ask, and if there's something you do not understand. I will do my best to continue watching the chat room. It might be that I'm so involved in what I'm telling you guys that I'm not really noticing what's happening over there, but bear with me. I might go back in the history of the chat to make sure that you guys' questions will be answered. Release techniques. It's all about you know, it's all about getting rid of stuff and change it, transform it even to something way more positive and way better. So I hope you guys will definitely hang on and get all the information that Steve and I got for you guys today. And he was briefly here, and there was something with his audio. We could hear him, but he couldn't hear me for some reason. Then it's a kind of difficult thing to actually communicate with each other. But hopefully I'm guessing he's restarting right now. It's happening a couple of times when we Skype with each other, that we need to restart. Either he has to do it or I have to do it, and then all the audio seems to work out perfectly for some reason. So again, advanced systems, this is what happens. So let's just get on with what this is all about. So I'm presuming that most of you who's watching right now know just a little bit of hypnosis, and it doesn't really matter what kind of brand you're practicing, what kind of modality or what kind of mindset you're practicing, because I would guess that most people are trained in different places, from different trainers with all different kind of opinions. And what we're here today to teach you guys, or maybe just to create some ideas for you, is there might be another way, or there might be confirmation in the way you're doing your work already. It might not be that everything that I'm telling you guys, everything that Steve has to tell you is the truth, is the only way to do it, but it's just to create another idea of how to work with release techniques within hypnosis. I hope you guys watched the last show from last Sunday, all about the fast speed inductions. We had a blast doing that, and luckily all the equipment seemed to work last time, and crossing my fingers that everything will continue working as we're speaking right now. So let me check the chat room, what you guys is How fast can you enter a trance, Martin? Well, I will answer that a little bit later because that is not a question that has to do with release techniques today, but I can enter a trance as fast as I can have the thought of going into trance. That's kind of it, so it doesn't have to take that long. And I know that, and you know the answer to that question anyway, but nice question anyway. So what I would like you guys to do is share some thoughts with me. Use the chat room, and for those of you who has been working with hypnosis already, what kinds of release techniques do you do when you see clients? I would like to know that. Any kind of technique, whatever you guys are doing, it might be that you're just doing whatever's in your script and that's your thing, perfect. It might be that you add something to it if something happens on the go. It might be that more things is happening on the pre-talk, and you might do the release technique actually before the hypnosis session. There's different variations of how to do the release techniques. So let me know, you guys. I know there's like a 30-second delay doing this, but let me know. Write down in the chat room what kind of release techniques that you do. And Steve will be here in a moment. He needed to restart. What I do, one of the most common release techniques that I do that seems to work on the mental level and also on the physiological level is something that I call the Sedona release technique. And the Sedona release technique is where you actually have an item, an object in your hand, whatever hand, doesn't matter really, and everything that is a discomfort, everything that is the negative thoughts or whatever you need to release gets channeled into this object, and at some point within this script you will actually release it. And I do know that I'm saying script a couple of times, and I will be doing that some more times this webinar. But let me tell you guys, in every session that I do, I never ever do any scripts at all. It might be that I'm reading a couple of scripts if somebody, you know, I'm in a lot of forums on the internet and people share scripts as it was the only thing to do with hypnosis for some reason. And it's kind of fun to read them because those who actually just read scripts for the clients are so limited in what they're able to do with their clients. So what I do, and I know Steve is doing the exact same thing, is actually go with the flow, see what's happening, and we have some techniques that we can add on to the whole hypnosis experience, because that will definitely make sure that whatever kind of work you're doing is going to be a little bit more long-lasting and forever-lasting even. Hey, Steve. Now you can hear me?
Hey.
Good thing.
Wow. System decided to update and restart, and yeah, so hi, everybody.
I was just talking about a little bit about, you know, the release techniques that we're going to talk a little bit more about. I see we got some questions already about what is a release technique.
Okay.
So I was just talking about how we do not read scripts, but how we incorporate every individual thoughts and needs in every session that we do.
Absolutely.
And I told people to write questions, so when I'm talking you can see the questions, when you're talking I can see the questions, but I would rather for you guys to ask questions when we ask you a specific question, write some answers or whatever questions you got, and then keep all the Q&As to the second part of this whole webinar, because that's easier for Steve and I to kind of navigate through what we want to show you guys today. So, Steve, you could start about talking a little bit about how you work with release techniques and in what way you use them, and yeah, everything that you know right now.
Everything that I know right here we go. Everything.
Everything.
Well, you know, the thing is, with every session I do, they're always different. You know, so, and I caught you said just a moment ago that we don't use any scripts, and it's true. You know, because what we're doing really is it's a deep, intimate connection that we have to have with people to help them get through problems. And you guys know that I do, or some of you know, that when I do when I'm working with somebody with weight, it's a weight release program, because there's always more to weight than weight. It's the behavior, it's the things that are driving the behaviors. sometimes those can be simple statements that somebody made to somebody many years ago. In fact, Martin and I worked on something last year or the year before about something that my dad had said to me, and it happened 25 years ago. It was longer than that, that it was affecting me in ways that I wasn't even aware. It was affecting my success. But I never know exactly what I'm going to do with somebody when they come in. There are a lot of different ways of approaching release. We can use timeline techniques. We can use dynamic mental imagery, which is something we teach in the conversational hypnosis training. We can use mind-bending language, which I think I saw Janet is on here, and she'll tell you that we've used mind-bending language with her in the training where we got rid of some things for her. But it's really helping people break out of, especially using the mind-bending language, is breaking out of those old paradigms, those old ideas that could be stuck there from something that somebody said. Now, there's also trauma release techniques, where we can get into some really deep stuff. Because I get clients in, all the time for child abuse, for sexual abuse, for rape situations. I live just 45 minutes away from Fort Campbell. Which is an Army base here. It's the 101st Airborne. And I get guys down here who have been in Afghanistan and Iraq who have gone through and seen things that, I can't even imagine having to be in the middle of that experience. But using some of these techniques that we're going to discuss, it really helps those guys get rid of some things that they don't need to be carrying around. One of my last class, I had a gentleman come in from Kentucky who is a fireman. And his goal was to use some of the release techniques to go back and work with these firemen who, they're running into burning buildings and they're finding things that, you and I really don't want to have to see. And they carry this stuff around with them. So, it's really important to learn these techniques, and we'll talk more about them as we go. So you guys ask any questions that you have. So we can really, we'll discuss them more, and Martin and I will discuss what he's doing and what I'm doing. But, there's several different techniques that I do use. I can't say specifically what they might be, though, without being in a conversation with somebody.
Yeah, you got a message there.
Yeah.
And, we can make this very complicated, and I've seen you guys. Jens wrote a couple of things, Lisa Lotte wrote a couple of things, Casper wrote something, and all of this is perfectly true, what you guys are writing. What we need to understand about the mind is there's something that it's called rules of the mind. And everybody is some kind of Neanderthal in their mind anyway. We have a basic mindset of how to approach new stuff, and it's either can I eat it, can it eat me, or can I reproduce myself with it? That's the three things that we basically do with new stuff that we kind of experience in our lives, because that's how we programmed in our basis system. So that also means that if we go back to the Stone Age, where Mammoth was walking around and we had no clothes on, we might have some sticks that were sharpened in the end, and we could kill a mammoth if we wanted to. 80% of our thoughts back then was kind of negative. Not negative in I hate everyone, not that kind of way, but how am I going to survive this kind of way? And that pessimistic thought, we still got that. So everything that we meet on the road is something that has to do with survival. But we can easily change that, because one of the rules of the mind would be a stronger emotion would easily erase a weaker one. And for some reason, people have a tendency to pull up all the negative reasons and make them more powerful. But every single client that I've had so far, in spite of whatever miserable life or perfect life they had so far, could always pick out a situation, a basic perfect situation where they just felt happy, free, or whatever. And that would at all times erase the negative one. And release techniques would be all about that, about getting that great emotion, letting go of physiological stuff, mental stuff that blocks you in doing what you really want to do, and all of that. So I guess the things that we want to share with you guys today is a variety of different brands or different types of release techniques. And as I told you guys, I got a little gift in the end for you guys. It's a short script for the Sedona method, and it's a 10-minute audio, and I'm going to give that to you guys so you can get an idea of this. But release techniques, you know, Steve, sometimes when I had some of the most transforming clients, that was usually just because of the release technique that we did somewhere inside of the hypnosis session. It might be that we put on a lot of therapy modalities or techniques or whatever, but what really changed them and what they kind of keep, you know, talking about afterwards when I reconnect with them or whatever, meet them on the street, it would be, you know, what happened when we kind of just let that go, and that new feeling I got, that's what changed me. And that's kind of interesting. So again, it's something that we have to pick up within the session, that can be placed at any time in the session, anywhere, and that could apply to whatever issue they got right now, instead of have everything pre-planned or just following the script. So we need to embrace that when it happens and know just a couple of different release techniques, so we can provide our clients with, you know, whatever they need in that exact moment. Because when they got the challenge, that's also when they're most ready to work with it, because we do know they're not unconscious, but they're in trance, so that we're using the subconscious, and we're speaking with the subconscious, maybe even superconscious, and doing that and allowing themselves to be in that spot, it only tells us that they're definitely ready to go. So I definitely embrace every moment that I got to go ahead and just do that release technique whenever. And it could be every kind of release technique. You just mentioned a bunch of them.
Yeah, and there's even more than that, you know.
Yeah.
There's collapsing the experience, where we just basically wipe out the emotional connection with the experiences. There is reintegration techniques. You know, there's parts therapy. There's regressions, of course. Regressions are extremely powerful.
Yeah.
And using those things, but those things can be done with eyes wide open too. And but you know, so many people think that all this stuff has to happen in deep trance, and it really doesn't. It can happen just in a simple conversation with somebody, where they're not even aware that they're even releasing anything until it's already happened. Because, you know, you and I both know that all change happens in the unconscious before the conscious mind's ever aware that it's even already changed.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. It's guiding people through that experience and allowing them to let those things go. And I love the surprise that people have on their faces when they come out, and they come out at the end of that conversation or that session or whatever that experience is, and they just can't make that connection anymore with that old experience, because it just isn't there. So you know, this stuff really is powerful. And you know, I think there's so many techniques. Of course, you know, the Sedona method that you were talking about. There's maybe we could sit here and name, you know, all different kinds of techniques all day long.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious what everybody else is using. Those of you who are hypnotherapists, you know, what techniques are you using in your office? Because let's talk about some of those and see how we can help you improve those and get even better success with what you're already doing, and get you away from those silly scripts. Those of you who are reading scripts, you have to get away from them. You know, your clients deserve better than that. I know if you're like, you know, my students, when they leave, I tell them to charge at least $100 an hour. You know, if you're going to charge somebody $100 an hour, at least connect with them. I mean, really. But, you know, if you guys have some techniques that you're using, please put them up in the chat here, because I'm kind of curious what you're doing.
Yeah, we had a couple who wrote something down already. If you scroll a little bit back,
Okay.
I know Casper wrote something, and we have also Johannes, and I know Liselotte wrote a little bit about, she uses the Sedona method.
Okay.
And Jens wrote about the modeling in feelings, and, you know, the collapsing of the negative. And it's all some of the, you know, mainstream techniques that we use. So if somebody got something even more specific or not that well known or common, let us know, because it's always interesting to see what people are doing that kind of is outside of the box that most people do.
And that's really what we want to do, is you know, take people out of the box. because people have been, most hypnosis trainings, and you and I have both been through them, where you go to them and you walk away with a book full of scripts that really don't pertain directly to the person you're working with.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't connect with them, then how can you possibly make an unconscious change with them if you're just reading off a script that somebody wrote because they were bored one night and thought they could make an extra $50 off of it? Because that's really what most of them are. Don't get me wrong, they have their places. You can learn things from them, but you never take a script into your office. So regression, ball technique. I'm curious what the ball technique is. Parts therapy, obviously, those of you who are doing any kind of hypnosis, and you should be aware of parts therapy and what it is. But I am kind of curious what the ball technique is.
Yeah, it seems kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And also, to detail it just a little bit more, that I know parts therapy, that's some kind of release technique. What I really want to get into the depth of is even more simpler techniques that we can use right here, right now, because that's definitely what I will bring to the table today, is when we do have a challenge with our client right there in the chair in front of us, or if we do meet something on the street somewhere, what kind of release technique can we do right there? So we can see something being released physically and mentally in an instant, instead of having all this setup of parts therapy or 5-10 minute timeline technique. Right. What could we do that is kind of a nice, easy technique in the middle of whatever kind of technique we're already doing, just to prevent the client from going somewhere different from the direction that would be positive intent and success as an outcome from this session? What kind of specific small techniques do you use within the session when you guys meet some kind of a challenge? What kind of technique do you use, Steve, if you see something happening in the middle of the session that might take your client a little bit out of it, and we need to release some nervousness, some stress, some conscious thoughts or something like that? What kind of technique do you use to get that out of the way and change it, reframe it to something positive?
Well, I was going to say, it's right there. That's the word. It's just reframing. Reframing what they're experiencing and what it means, and telling them, because a lot of times, when people have experiences, it's something as simple as a phrase can be said to someone, and they're not even aware of why that person said it to them. And something I tell my clients a bit. You've probably heard the story of the Christmas ham. You heard that?
The Christmas ham?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little Susie and her mom are cooking Christmas dinner. And Mom takes the ham and she sets it on the counter, and she cuts one end off the ham and she turns it around and she cuts the other end off the ham and she puts it in the pan. And little Susie goes, "Well, why did you cut the end off the ham?" "Oh, well, that's the way we cook ham." "But why?" "Well, that's the way your grandma always cooked ham, so that's just the way we cook ham." "But why?" "Well, that's a great question. Let's call Grandma and find out." So they call Grandma, and Grandma, we're cooking Christmas dinner, and little Susie wants to know why we cut the ends off the ham. And Grandma goes, "Well, I don't know why you do it, but my pan was too short." People are doing things all the time. They're not aware of why they're doing them. And what we have to do is give them the ability to understand that a lot of things that we're doing are on autopilot, and they don't have a clue why they're doing them. So, reframing the way somebody is having an experience is a great way of letting things go. But when we're getting into bigger issues, then obviously we want to do something a bit more formal. Typically, I want to take somebody into a bit deeper trance and go into regression work and do some collapsing techniques. You guys who are familiar with NLP may be familiar with the fast phobia cure, where you're basically collapsing the experience and taking it from this is the experience, and you're taking the two ends and bringing them together, almost like a wormhole. Because we take those 2 points in time, so we start to connect them, so this experience really doesn't have an impact on them anymore. It's still there, they have the memory of it, but they're disconnected from it, they're dissociated from it, and it doesn't affect them anymore. And if you do it right, you can take somebody from that experience and move them through their life, through their lifeline or life experience with those new resources, and it would collapse those experiences as they go that are connected to those problems. That's one of the most powerful things that I do. is helping people collapse those experiences and then using the new resources to guide them through their life and apply them in different ways.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are using that, and I was just following up on. I see Casper. He's talking about how he uses the technique he's doing. Okay. A lot of imagery. That's perfect. And Hypno H, the ball technique is actually the Sedona method. I got the ball right here, and that's what you're talking about. Is actually the Sedona method. Anchoring whatever kind of discomfort, bad behavior, negative thoughts that you got inside of you, channel that through your arm into that ball, squeeze it, and even put the anger into that, and then suddenly just release it by throwing it away. It has a massive impact on the client, no matter what kind of issues that you're dealing with, because they have to interact. It's not just imagery. It's not just you tapping their hand or anything like that. They have to interact and they have to feel it, and there's also room for patience from you as a facilitator to have them go through that process, so they will definitely get something into this ball. And it's just a simple, basic anti-stress ball, and I've seen awesome transformation with people just letting this ball go, and that's kind of funny that something so simple can be so powerful, just as the same as the collapse thing that we use in NLP. It's kind of interesting.
Well, yeah. The ball thing is Gestalt Therapy, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's projecting those experiences into something that you can let go. Yelling at the chair and punching the pillows, and whatever it is to get it out. And you're right, it is more than visualizing. It's connecting as many representational systems as we can. The visual, the auditory, the kinesthetic, and putting them all together, because that's going to have much more impact on your unconscious mind than just the visualizations.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
And it's also about sorry. Oh, sorry. It's all about the communication, also how you ask your questions. As Jens is writing right here, that he often uses the phrase "what's different now," and that's perfect, because you're not locking your client into having a challenge about, am I really experiencing anything at all? So I never use the questions like, do you notice a change? I would always ask, what kind of change is it that you notice now, or what is it that just happened, something like that, because it's basic rapport. And some people will still claim that if nothing is happening, there's no rapport, but somebody's just sitting there like a rock. That's a lot of rapport in some context. So I would rather have everybody to notice even the slightest little details that's changing within them, because something is happening. If they can truly do the argument that nothing has happened, I will say they just died in that chair, because then nothing is really not happening. But there will always be something, just a change of temperature, a change of a buzzing sensation in the fingers. They suddenly notice they got a knee because now something itches on the knee. That's rapport, and that's a change. So we need to notice every slight little detail also, because it's a powerful tool that's happening within the release technique also.
Well, that simple question also takes people into a deeper trance, because they have to internalize their experience. They actually have to scan their body, scan their experience, and notice what is actually changed at that point. So it's also a great deepening technique. And one of the questions that we use in the conversational training is what's happening now. In fact, it's the school of what's happening now. When we're doing dynamic mental imagery or talking about non-awareness set and becoming aware of things that you're not aware that you're already doing. It's that question, what's happening now? Because they have to go in and actually have to internalize the experience, and that's going to connect them on a deeper level with what's actually happening in that moment too.
Yeah,
it's a great question.
I put up a poll on the right side asking you guys if you use any detailed or specific release techniques. I would like you guys to answer that and see what the outcome of that poll would be. Look at the right side of the screen. There will be a poll there. I'm going to end that in a couple of minutes. Steve, just for a little giveaway, could you give like a small demo of your NLP collapsing technique? I know you got it memorized in the most brilliant way anyway. So let's say that everybody who's actually watching and listening right now, if we have something that we just want to release like that, could you go through just the basics of how you're going to use that? Because I know you can do that on the street in any conversation, just grabbing that thought and working with it. So could you give us some insights on that?
Collapse that I do? That's the one you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
The one that I do really quickly? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I had a feeling we would get into this today.
Challenge.
Well, this is extremely effective, and this is kind of a combination of NLP, some of Igor Lidohovsky's work, the regression technique that he does, some things that I've just kind of put together myself. What we do, and just a basic framework, is we regress somebody back to, let's say we have this initial sensitizing event, the ISE. Okay, this is where the problem begins. Now, this problem could be something like maybe somebody says something to you that affects you at a deep level. It could be, again, it could be an abuse situation. It could be something very traumatic. But what we do is we regress back to prior to the experience, just maybe a moment before the experience ever happens. And we go in and we actually coach that earlier version of them. Let's say it's little Billy and he's 5 years old and his brother punched him in the face, and I don't know, whatever it is. But we'll use that as an example. So we go back and we see little Billy. He's 5 years old, and I typically do it in a screen, because in this screen we can dissociate from the experience. But what I do is I have them step into the screen. They go in, they have a conversation with little Billy, and they tell him, they kind of coach him that something is about to happen, but everything's going to be okay. On the other side of this, it's going to be okay, but you're going to have to go through the experience. They step out of the screen, they watch little Billy, he goes through the experience all the way to the end, to a time when everything is okay again. Now, we have them rewind all the way back to the beginning where everything is okay, before the event ever happened. Because what's happening is little Billy just learned something by going through that experience. And primarily what he learns is that in the end, it's going to still be okay. This experience overall kind of sucks, but in the end, it's going to be okay. So we go back in, we have him learn that experience, and this time we have him go through it again, but he goes through it again in black and white. So we're kind of creating, again, another level of dissociation. Okay, because we get the screen, it's in a frame, now there's the black and white, so they're separating themselves from the experience. They have him go through all the way through the experience again to the end, to a time when everything's okay, rewind all the way back. Now this time, he's learned something new, and I'm always suggesting that he's learning something new from this experience every single time he goes through it. We have him roll through the experience again, but this time in black and white with no sound. So it goes all the way through to the end when everything's okay, rewind all the way back. Now, at this point, I want to have that screen push off a little bit further. So now if you're aware of neuro-linguistic programming, you're aware of the representational systems that I'm using. Because I started with the visual, because we're turning it to black and white. So we're separating that layer of connection. The second one is we turn off all the sound, so he goes through with no sound. The third thing we do is we push the screen off just a little bit. So now we're using kinesthetic and spatial experience as well. Have them go through it again, all the way to the end, all the way back. Now this is where I start to speed up, because I have them go from from the beginning where everything's okay, all the way through, all the way through, all the way through to the end, everything's okay. Now rewind it all the way back to the beginning. This time a little faster, even farther away, all the way through to the end, everything's okay. Now rewind it all the way back to the beginning. This time even faster, all the way through to the end, everything's okay. Now rewind it all the way back to the beginning, everything's okay. Now this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll through this about 6 or 7 times. All the way through to the end, everything's okay, back to the beginning, everything's okay, all the way through to the end, everything's okay, back to the beginning, everything's okay. And I'll do this as fast as I can. And because what I want to do is I want to move so fast, their conscious mind can't possibly keep up with what's happening. So I'm basically squeezing that experience until it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And I've already suggested that it's getting farther away as well. So they're just getting more and more dissociated from the experience. After I've done that, I take them all the way through to the end one more time. I have them step into the screen, so now they're there with that person who just has all these new learnings, all this new experience, and all these new resources. Now, what I want to do is I want to have them embrace themselves, so little Billy embraces little Billy and hugs him so tight that he melts inside. as he melts inside, I'm giving the suggestion that now he's growing up inside them with all these new resources and all these new experiences and all these new learnings. And as he's going through his life and he's growing up through those years, all those experiences have been affected by this ISE, the initial sensitizing event, is actually being changed as he goes through those experiences again, all the way up to this moment in time. And then you can future pace them if you want to, and connect them so when anything comes up again that they have a completely different experience with whatever this problem is related to. Bring them back out, and the last thing we always do with anybody is test. Because I'll calibrate initially before we even start. Let's say we go back, okay, Billy, you got bitten by a dog. Let's go back there on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being it doesn't bother you at all, 10 being that was just a horrible experience. Where are you? They'll say, well, I'm a 7 or 8. Okay, well, great. At the end of this, when we go through, if we finish the session, we test and say, okay, now go back and think about that experience again. On a scale of 1 to 10, where are you? Well, it's maybe a 1. Okay, then we've done what we needed to do. And the thing is, the whole experience, this whole thing can take less than, 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that fast phobic and trauma release, some people also call it the movie theater technique, something like that, sure. Because you can build it up in the movie theater and how, the different levels of how emotional it's going to be. They will place themselves on different rows of the seats in that theater, telling you as a facilitator how much is going to happen on the screen right there. But I love that technique. It's definitely some that I do in most sessions also, to get that complete understanding of the first experience with that emotion, or how it really became alive back when. It's a powerful technique, because that rewinding forward, going forward, back and forth would be, what's collapsing it, and suddenly it means nothing, and now they got a skill. Sometimes I love the growing thing that you're talking about, and I know you do this too. I always look for what kind of skill did you suddenly recognize that you learned from this situation. So not just did we do the change work, and not only did we get reconnected with that, but suddenly we have a new bag filled with new skills that was something that happened way back then, and now we notice that if that didn't happen, we couldn't be in that position we're in right now, knowing what we know now, and that's also adding to this whole release technique becoming something that you're suddenly aware of, new skills and all of that. That's an awesome thing.
Exactly.
Definitely. Yeah.
Alexander said he uses all those things with the finger twitch, which is idiomotor response. And
idiomotor.
I use idiomotor response in my office all the time as well, because it is a great way to connect with the unconscious without them having to actually, be fully involved in the communication. So yeah, great job, Alexander.
Exactly. And also, I got a new poll for you guys. If you've seen it already and you answer that, perfect. Otherwise, go look at it. It's all about, do you use scripts as a tool in sessions? I would like to know how it's divided up. I can tell you guys that regarding the release techniques, that 57% of you guys is actually using that as an active thing in the session, and 43% is answered no to that. So kind of interesting to see how people work. That's also why Steve and I is doing this, to know how you guys is working, and to see how common what we do is out there in the big world out there.
Right, exactly. Here, I'm going to chime in. I'm going to vote. I do not use a script.
I'm going to do the exact same thing right here. All right.
Please answer that honestly, because we really do. We are curious about this. But if you are using scripts, then get in touch with one of us and let us teach you how to get beyond those things. Because the thing about hypnosis is it's nothing less than a deeply intimate connection with people. And if you're reading a script, you can't possibly be connected with people. If you saw the last webinar we did, where the video of Christani, who was not connected with her client at all, and how he fell on his face, flat on his face on the floor. This really is, it's a deep, intimate connection we need to have with our clients to be effective with them. And you, like Martin was talking about a while ago with rapport, if you are connected with them, you're going to have much, much, much more success with them, and it's going to happen much faster. Just here in Nashville, I know there's some folks here in town that are script readers, and when somebody calls them, well, I had one woman call me the other day, and we were talking about quitting smoking. She said, "Well, how many sessions is it going to take?" And I said, "Well, typically one." With the techniques that I use, that's basically the success, about 90 to 95% success in one session. And she said, "Well, this other woman said it was going to take me 8." Like, really? It's going to take you 8 sessions? And she said, "Yeah, well, I went to see her the first time, and she started to read to me from a piece of paper." And I said, "Well, there's the problem, because she's not connecting with you. She's not connecting with the deepest desires and the things that are driving behaviors that you have. And without making a deep connection with your clients, you're going to be much, much, much less successful in your career." But I tell you, when you have a deep connection with your folks, they're going to go out and they're going to tell everybody they meet that you're amazing, because you do have this ability to connect with them, and they don't even know why. If you're not familiar with rapport building techniques, then give me a call. I'd be happy to teach you some. In fact, we should probably do a webinar on rapport building techniques.
Yeah, we could do that.
Because it's important. You have to connect with your folks.
Yeah.
So it says what 34% here they are using scripts in their sessions. And you guys give us a call. Let us teach you how to get around that, because it's much better to have that deep connection with people. Because you're going to have much more respect from your clients that way.
You can also put it in a different way, because a common question that I do get when I teach, not just in Denmark, but it could be England, could be the US also. People ask me, would it be okay, because when they suddenly discover, when they're actually just throwing away the scripts and just go with the flow, that they get into a deep trance themselves. Exactly. And the most common question would be, is that okay? And my answer would be, yeah, because if you're in trance also, and you're working with your subconscious, you can embrace and you can overview so much more in that session. You will pick up on everything that's happening. Even the things that are not said in the session, you will still pick up on that, and you can utilize that and still work with it in the conscious and the subconscious mind at the same time. It might not be that you can do that from the first time you do it, but it's something that gets in there underneath the skin with practice, practice, practice. So I would definitely recommend for you guys to be in trance, because again, if we talk about the conscious mind, how many things can the conscious mind actively focus on at the same time? How many things? And that's one only. So if you kind of need to navigate within your script, not really knowing how much you read already, maybe putting your finger there, need to refine it, reset it, and re-understand it, all your focus is away from the client. And that detachment, most clients actually get that on the subconscious level. And that might turn into distrust of being, discomfort even. That's what I recognize, because I did read scripts when I first started doing this, because I was told that's the only way to do it. And I felt like every time I needed to redo something, and I was listening to audios, and I thought, how come what I'm doing is so much better than an audio? Because an audio is a timed script with some certain words into it in a general universal language, and what I'm doing is exactly the same thing with this script I've got. The only change or difference would be that I'm actually sitting in front of them, so I can change my pace and how I speak and communicate with my clients, and that might make a difference. But what I used to get way back was clients complaining about the words that I used, because they felt like, hey, you said something about releasing, that might be the word. That doesn't really, concur or happening in my mind. I need a stronger word than that. And if I did a proper pre-talk, I would know that, and then I would use that word. Or it might even just be that I needed to do what I call my hypnotic one-liners, that things that you need to do in the beginning before you actually do the session, that no matter what happens, you will stay in that seat or whatever. If I say a word that you know there's something stronger within you, you will easy as nothing just change that word to something that's so much more powerful. When people know that from the beginning, that would happen automatically, and you will be way ahead of them, and then suddenly what kind of limited script you're doing will actually start working. But just think about it, how much more powerful will it be if you just did everything by the flow and not by the words on the paper. That would definitely make a change. And I know some people would fight until the day they die to do the scripts and everything like that, and it's perfect if you got success doing that. All right, we're just putting out an idea that there might be an even better method. And what I kind of recognize, it might be that you want to correct me on this, Steve, because I know you got the same challenges once in a while, that what I do recognize is when I have people who had trainings at other schools coming to my place, and I'm actually just showing them the manual and saying, well, you're going to get this on the last day, and put it away and start working with them, they get terrified.
Right.
And it might be that during the whole training, they're not really knowing what's happening because they cannot put it into perfect context, and just the fact that they're not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow, or how to do or how to handle this thing that we're teaching right now, makes them terrified. But suddenly putting everything together on the last day, and you can have a list with like 50 items on it, and they will sit there by themselves thinking, hey, I know everything, I know that, I know how to use that, I know that and this, and it's kind of, hey, I told you guys. If we give them that list from day one, they will maybe not even get half, and they need to reread everything after the training because they're still trying to figure out how to get the full context. That's definitely my experience dealing with clients or students that had prior training to the training that got here. That's the kind of challenge that I get, and to be honest, it's awesome because they will get that epiphany experience of, wow, this really happened, I can do this, and then just want to be in that flow because that flow is so energizing in some weird way, but it really is.
Yeah, if you just listen to your clients, if you just pay attention to them and ask the right questions, they're going to tell you all the words you need to use. And if you just feed back those words to them during your session or during your conversation, not in a way that you seem mocking to them, but you're still using the same words because you're going to have a much deeper rapport with them. And if you have deeper rapport, you're going to have much more trust. You have more trust, and it's easier to do these release techniques because people don't. They have to trust you to release things. If they don't have trust in you, if you're not connected with them, then you're not going to be able. They're not going to release anything for you. And so it really is important to have the rapport. It really is important to listen to your clients. And knowing the right questions to ask, and that's something you really kind of have to come into the training to learn, because we don't have time to go through all those today. But it's and I agree with Casper here. Writing a script it's a good way to learn language as long as you don't take it into your office. I completely agree with that. But again, script should only be a guideline. It should only be an outline for what you're going to do during the session. Listen to your clients. They're going to tell you what they need, and because honestly, they know what they need. They just don't know that they know what they need, and that's what we have to help guide them to, is understanding that.
Yeah.
There's several different ways that we can do these release techniques. I like parts therapy as well. I think it's a great way to help people get rid of things. I've helped people I helped a guy get off crack cocaine one time with parts therapy, and it took 2 sessions to do it. Crack cocaine, and the guy quit in 2 sessions using parts therapy because he had an experience that led him into being very self-destructive. And using his own ability to connect with himself on a deeper level and let something go that he didn't even know that he could let go, he walked out of my office and never smoked any more crack, which I was pretty happy with that. I know he was too.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And also a comment about what Casper is saying right here, that it helps him when he writes scripts. It helps him, and he can pay more attention to the details, and it's perfectly all right, and it's exactly that. What I did when I started first back 15 years ago, something like that, I recorded everything that I did, and I re-listened to it every time I recorded something, and I could like handpick words like, why I'm really saying this, because it has no content or it has no meaning whatsoever, and kind of just get rid of all, you know, that excessive words that doesn't really have to be there, and writing everything down, as you say right here, Casper, would be noticing how often you actually ask questions, because you don't have to ask questions like that. You have to guide them and tell them in what direction, and then ask them the only question that would be, what kind of change do you know now that just happened? Something like that. Never go for a yes or no question. That will definitely leave your client to maybe ask the conscious mind and then have like a wall on the whole session, and we don't want to activate that conscious mind at any time unless it's necessary. So yeah, write it down, play with the words, and that's how I use scripts today. When I pick them up somewhere on the internet, read it through. There might just be from 100 pages, there might just be one sentence that is so powerful that that's something definitely that I want to learn and memorize, because I can utilize that in some of my sessions, and it will be there when I need it. That's how much I trust my mind. So Godspeed. Write it down, play with it, play with the words, listen to yourself on your recordings, because it really helps to figure out why some things is actually working pretty well and why some things is not really happening at all. So it's a good idea, definitely.
There's a good question here. Why are we spending so much time discussing scripts? Because it's important. When we get on these webinars, just like we do in our sessions, we really don't go into these things scripted, because it's a very organic conversation, and I think that's the way we learn best. You're right. We do need to get back on our topic, but it was I think is an important tangent for us to go into, because without connecting with your people, you can't help them release anything anyway. And again, those people who do read scripts have to get away from them and have that deeper connection with their folks, or they're just not going to connect. So, I understand your question, your frustration that we kind of moved away from the techniques today, but it really was important for us to discuss this. So I hope you learned something from it as well.
Yeah, because we need that. You put a great word in there, organic. Because when we do release techniques, there's a lot of things that we need to be aware of when we're working with our clients, because we will be able to sit there and watch the clients and see the change, maybe even before they notice it. And it's impossible if we got our head buried in a manual or in a script or something, different over there. So, especially when I do the release techniques, I actually definitely, of course, I do consider parts therapy and the techniques Steve just told about as release techniques. But when I do the small, fast ones, I'm really focused on my client, and I'm allowing them to have time to process it all, because you can actually sit there and watch that change. You can maybe even feel it in the room, because as somebody actually wrote further down, that allowing yourself to sit there feeling intuitive and being in that flow, and then suddenly just knowing what to do with your client, that is so crucial, because there's a two-way communication, non-verbal, happening with your client, and that would make your client even more secure, even more safe, and trusting you into doing these fast release techniques, or just release techniques in whatever kind of form that you use them. But I do feel it's kind of interesting. Staying on the topic, there would be release techniques that is only working with your mind, or whatever kind of thought pattern you got. That would be some release techniques that's powerful for that. There would be some that has to do with everything physiological, discomfort. Remember, I'm not saying pain, because pain is something artificial, but discomfort is something way different, and you can work with discomfort. And there would be something, a third thing that is helping out both of them. because we do know that everything that happens in your mind has an effect in the body. So if something is wrong within your physiological system, it might come from up here. So if we can release both of the sources or the whole deal instantly, that would be way more powerful than just, you know, talking about the symptoms and all of that. So just a brain fart from me. I just needed to say that. But still, yeah.
A point that you brought up a moment ago, you know, when we're not doing the fast, rapid releases, we really do have to be patient and give our clients time to process, because there's a lot going on in there, and you will see the change happen in them before they're aware of it. A lot of times it can be that you may see relaxation in the face, or you may just see that
exactly, yeah,
before they're even aware that they just did that, and you know they've already changed. You know, because you can see because the unconscious mind is always communicating, and that's the whole point of the idiomotor response and using the index finger as a response technique. You know, because the unconscious mind is always communicating; it's always letting us know what's going on. You know, and being aware of those things and paying attention to your clients, it's going to give you much more ability to help guide them through those experiences, and come to the realization that change has happened.
Exactly. I can actually share a story also. I had a client that was raped by two guys in the age of 15. And she had been at the psychologist's office and the doctors and everything for like a time period of 4, maybe even 5 years. Cognitive therapy, everything. She tried everything. What happened was her pattern was every time that she had a feeling that was kind of interfering with that old feeling of being raped, she panicked, peed her pants, or locked herself in to her apartment for several days, actually. And that's kind of difficult to live a normal life if that's the kind of behavior that you're looking at. Because it could be minor things during a regular day that suddenly got her scared, senseless, and then she just reacted. She couldn't help herself. She just needed to react, and she couldn't talk with anyone. I had one session with her, like 50 minutes, and from that session on, she actually was able to live her life. She could handle any kind of situation she got into, discussions, feeling threatened, even that. And 2 weeks later, she actually met one of the guys who raped her. And she tried that a couple of times before, and she got a nervous breakdown. But this time, she knew that he was the guy who was facing trouble. He was the guy who was challenged within his mind, because if he needed that power trip way back, and she suddenly discovered that she was the most powerful one, because she could detach herself and actually be in control of what happened. But she was also happy about her life, so she didn't struggle, because she knew that something bad will definitely happen if she kind of fighted it. So she just looked at him, and that look alone made him flee and get the hell out of that place, and they never met again. So she got that power success, that very emotional success, being in that situation, suddenly being able to handle herself. And we did traumaphobic release, we did some parts therapy and mixed it all up, but what made the difference was actually the Sedona method. Releasing everything physically, mentally, and have that impact into this ball and just releasing it. She told me afterwards what made the change was that exactly. That was the trigger, that was the button or whatever. So we can never underestimate the power of a good, proper, simple, basic release technique. And that's why we need to do it impromptu if we need to. When it feels right, put it in there and deal with it. Make your client change and allow them to by just sitting there being patient. Yeah, you need to cough again.
Something else you just mentioned a moment ago I think is very important is having different tools, you know, because you use several different techniques to help her make that change. And having as many tools in your toolbox is extremely important. If you, learn as many techniques as you possibly can, because you never know what's going to be the one that's really going to work for them. You know, because you tried a couple different things before you got to the Sedona method, and that's what was actually facilitated the change right there. So keep learning, keep studying, and of course, practice, practice, practice.
Practice, practice, practice.
And then do it again. We're kind of getting close to our hour here. Does anybody have any questions about anything right now, or anything you want to bring up that we should get into for the next couple of minutes?
Yeah, please ask that. I know still there's this 30-second delay approximately. What I want to show you guys also meanwhile would be if you guys want to download the Sedona method script, a set script, I know that, so you guys can read it. I did a fast translation just before this webinar, so there might be some errors in there, misspellings. So just change it so it works even more perfect in your hands. And if you want to download that audio, I'm just going to display that offer right here. So it would be there. Get it free, get it here, download now. Just press that and fill in the blanks, and you will get the download link for that. It might be helpful. Just get an idea. The audio will be a small pre-talk, small induction, and then the release technique just to play with it. So it might give you guys an idea of how to use it. That's going to be the little gift for you guys today. So let's see if anybody actually asked anything. It doesn't seem like that. Another thing could be if you guys have any thoughts, any ideas of what kind of topics you would like Steve and I to talk about and give you guys some insights of, please let us know. Write that in the chat room. Connect with us afterwards and let us know, because we will, as often as possible, do this if it works out every Sunday, or hopefully every second week if possible, and just build this database of video and infos about the topics that you would like to get some information on, because we love this, and it's wonderful to share that with you guys and have you guys to share your thoughts with us. We love that. So please let us know if you got any ideas for topics, things you want to know a little bit more about, or if you got any questions for us right now. All right, we got somebody. Let's see.
I'm not sure what is that, Jet? I can't read that question, but I'm sure it has something to do with the conversational hypnosis training.
Oh yeah, okay. Let me translate it. Why can I sign up for the training, the conversational hypnosis training, with the coupon code? It might be that it run out.
It's probably that one is expired, most likely. Send me an email to steve@masterhypnosistraining.com, and we'll talk about that. We'll put a link up to the website there. There's a contact page on there. You can go check that out. And I tell you what, if you guys, if you're interested, if you want to come to the training, I know the early bird special is over. But if you're interested, go to Master Hypnosis Training. Let me know that you heard about us on the webinar, and send me your email, and I'll send you a link for a $300 discount. Awesome. Martin didn't even know I was going to do that today. So actually, I didn't know I was going to do that today until just now. But if you're interested in coming to the training, it's going to happen next month in Denmark, and I'm really excited about it. And we get some great people coming in from various places, and it's going to be a good time. But if you're interested, just go to masterhypnosistraining.com, go to the contact page, send me your email, and let me know that you saw us on the webinar. And I'm more than happy to send you a code to save you a little cash and come to the training, because it really is going to be a lot of fun. And of course, we have 3 days of a bonus that you guys are going to get to experience. That, well, it's going to be a surprise.
Yeah. There will also be like a video on that webpage where you and I talk about the conversational hypnosis. So it's a little bit more into depth with all the things that you need to know about the conversational stuff. Just to tell you guys, it works perfectly if you already know hypnosis, but it also works perfectly if you don't know anything about hypnosis. So it's actually a basic training that you will get certified in, and for everybody who's working with different modalities of hypnosis, this is a powerful add-on that might change the whole way that you're actually working with hypnosis. So I would recommend you guys to do that. Steve is not going to pop up every second month in Denmark anyway, so this is a one in a lifetime opportunity to get this training right here, and it's happening.
We'll see what happens. But yeah, it's I know that the conversational hypnosis work changed my entire approach to hypnosis, and it really is it's a much better way to deeply connect with your clients. I put up the link to my website. Here's a link directly to the did it show up there? Yeah, there we go. That's a link to the Mark sign up page. But if you, like I said, if you're interested, go to the contact page on the site, send me your email address, and I'll send you a code for a $300 discount today. And it's only going to be good until Friday, so keep that in mind. So if you want to sign up, now's the time to do it.
All right. See, we got two questions here that we might connect a little bit. We got Janet talking about the meaning of colors, and we got Hypno H talking about the micro emotions or micro expressions. I think you're talking about micro expressions.
Right.
And kind of just grabbing. It might be a different context of what you guys is really asking. How to work with it, or how to understand it, or maybe even translating it. What I usually do, I never draw any conclusions from what my clients is telling me. I'm not thinking that this might be the issue. I will always ask them. So if a client got a specific color and it keeps popping up somehow, I will definitely go into depth about what is this color, why is it so important for you to see that, what does it mean, is it attached to an emotion or something like that. So I'll definitely go into depth with that. Regarding colors, might be that Steve in a couple of seconds got a different opinion on that. And micro expressions, well, I saw your second question about the mentalism stuff. Well, that's a way different training, and it takes a lot more time. I'm actually touring right now, performing, because I've been a consultant on a famous Danish television show called, in plain English, it's actually called Fucking With Your Brain. And it's all about making illusions, making the mind confused, and working with dual realities, and that's all about micro expressions, how to plant information somewhere. It might be that we bring that up because I know Steve knows a lot about micro expressions also. I do the whole body language micro expression combination thing also. So that would be a good topic for a future one. All right, we got some good ideas here. Well, what colors, Steve, to have spend just a couple more minutes. How do you use colors, or how do you interpret colors from your clients?
I ask them, what does it mean to you? What do you feel from it? What are you experiencing from that color? Because I don't want to project my ideas of what it is to them, because it could be something completely different. So yeah, I connect with my client and ask them.
Exactly.
And we can connect with. Well, let's say you have somebody who's having a problem, and I have them internalize and go inside and think about where that experience is, and imagine they can see inside themselves of what color is that problem. And sometimes I can't remember where I got this technique. I think it's an NLP technique. Let's say they have a fear. Typically fears have a tendency to be right in here. Anxiety primarily is right around the sternum area. And have them go inside and say, what color is that experience? Well, say the experience is red. Well, notice where the experience goes. Where does that color move? Let's say it goes up and it comes out of the top of their head and it exits there. I'll have them bring it back around to their chest so it makes a complete revolution, it makes that connection, and have them push it out in front of them and flip it around instantly and ask them again, what color is it? It always, every single time that color changes. So now it's revolving the opposite way, and have them pull it back in so it inserts a completely different set of experiences. So now instead of starting at their chest and going up, it's starting in their head and going down and coming out of their chest and going back. So now it's going the opposite direction, but the color always changes. And it's always something different, and they have a completely different feeling every time they experience that. But the colors typically change from person to person. So, I want to know from them what they're experiencing, because I don't want to project my ideas of what those things might be.
Exactly. So it's all about, You cannot always expect to understand everything about your client, but you can do your best in guiding them and make them understand everything about themselves. It's a way different thing. It's so difficult for people who sit there and think that a good successful session would be understanding your client and telling them what to do, and that would be where you fail the most as a hypnotherapist or as a hypnotist. But when you get this full experience with the client, when they suddenly know what to do with their lives because you opened the door or showed them the door, but they actively did something themselves, that would be you as the most successful hypnotist or hypnotherapist. So don't ever try to understand them, but help them understand themselves. That would be so much more powerful. Hope that makes sense in some way.
Exactly.
Exactly. Steve, let people know where to get in contact with you. I know you shared. This is kind of a double thing because the guys who's watching this online would get a lot of information on this right side of the screen, and for people who watch this on one of our web pages afterwards will not get that. But what I will do afterwards, it puts some text on here so you guys can see what kind of links we're talking about. But Steve, tell a little bit about future plans and where to get in contact with you.
Go to masterhypnosistraining.com. Masterhypnosistraining.com. That's where you're going to find information about upcoming trainings and workshops that I'm going to be involved in, Martin as well, because we are talking about doing a super training that is going to blow everybody away. We haven't decided where exactly that's going to be yet. But, of course, I've got the training coming up in Denmark, and I was looking at a training in Seattle, but I think actually I'm going to wait, and we're going to move that training all the way down the West Coast to go to San Diego instead. And
I'm with you.
We're going to do a large conversational hypnosis training in September with another friend of mine, so I'm really excited about that. But Power of Conversational Hypnosis Training workshops coming up and all kinds of fun stuff, so masterhypnosistraining.com. That's where you're going to find me.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, so you guys got a lot of information. I can tell you guys if you want to see the last webinar we did, if you want to see this one again, you can go to either thehypnoacademy.com or hypnoinsights.com. I will make sure that on the link webinars there will be some links there so you guys can watch it directly from the website. I will not make it accessible directly from YouTube because we need to edit it a little bit. We had some bad upstart on this one today, so hopefully it got better on getting here. The coupon code, I just put a link up here about the fast speed inductions, and John is asking the coupon code is actually just a webinar. Otherwise, email me if there's any links that do not work. If it has to do with Steve, email him. If it has to do with me, email me and I will show the links and you can still get some discounts. And
I'm not sure if he means for the Denmark training or for the speed hypnosis DVD.
Exactly, and that's why I said, well, get in contact with us and we will show you how to do it, or we will resend you the links.
Yeah.
Again, if you want to download the Sedona method, the audio, the PDF file, you can get that now from pressing download now. Besides that, we got some good ideas of future themes and topics that we're going to talk about. So guys, help us share this with everyone. Hypnosiswebinaronline.com, that would be the place for future webinars. And that's awesome. So I hope you guys is happy about what happened today. I hope you got some information. We got a little bit sidetracked, I know that, but anyway, I hope it was fun. So
difficulties.
yeah, it happens.
Yeah, it's all good.
That's just how it is. So any last words from you, Steve?
I just hope you guys join us at a training somewhere. We can only do so much as we sit here in front of these cameras. Where you're really going to learn these skills is being in the training and being immersed in the experiences and getting feedback instantly from what you're doing. But beyond that, just keep learning, keep practicing, and keep changing lives.
Exactly. And another thing, if you guys want to connect with Steve and I, not just in Denmark, but if you're looking for something different, both Steve and I would be in Las Vegas in July doing the Hypnothoughts Live conference and doing multiple workshops and things over there. So go look at that webpage, and Steve and I will be there. If you want to hook up, let us know, and definitely we will have some fun. Besides that, thanks everyone for watching. Let's see if there's any final questions or anything like that. Well, Gitte, you're welcome.
It's good to be loved.
It's very good to be loved, and we love doing this. So it's awesome to have you guys sit out there, watch us crazy people do what we do best. We are proud of being hypnosis nerds in the way we are, and if we can just plant an idea or create something in your minds, it's worth everything. So thanks everyone for watching, and I'm looking forward to see you guys in real life, or maybe just on the next webinar or on email, wherever. So take care, everyone.
Thank you all.
And thanks, Steve, for being here again.
Great to see you, as always.